everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a bit of a different video, not something I would normally do on my channel, but I did want to share this because during the last few months I've been wanting to watch a lot of videos about this kind of stuff, so I thought that maybe some people might find it helpful and it's good to just share my experience and hopefully I can help someone or give some information to someone who's looking for videos on this topic. So it probably won't be interesting to all of you, like a lot of you subscribe to me for makeup related stuff, so totally understand if you don't watch this video because it won't be for everybody. So I thought I would just give some information for a start on why I'm making this video. So when I was younger I did have irregular periods and I went to the doctor, I don't really remember when, but I want to say around 15 or 16. Because I had really bad acne as a teenager, and that's quite common when you're a teenager, so I don't know, and I also have one side of my family that gets a bit of acne, so it wasn't really like surprising that I had it, and I didn't think too much of it other than the fact that it made me really self-conscious as a teenager and I just really hated my skin. So I went to the doctor for that, for my regular periods, and I used to get like abdominal pain. I still don't know what that was or if it was related in any way, but I went for all of that and they said that they could put through a request for me to get a referral to get a scan to find out if I had PCOS. PCOS is polycystic ovary syndrome. If you don't know, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what everything means in this video because I'm not an expert. I've done a lot of my own research and I encourage you to do the same if you want to know about it. I'll leave a link to a really good book down below which is all about periods. It talks about PCOS and it was really good for me to read, so I highly recommend it. I just bought it on Kindle. It is the Period Repair Manual by Lara Bryden. Like I said, I'll link it down below because I highly recommend that book. But obviously there is tons of stuff you can read on the internet about all of these topics. I just don't want to go into it too much because I'm not an expert. So anyway, they said that they could put it through a request to see if I could get a scan to find out if I did have it. And because of the way that it was diagnosed at the time, I didn't meet the criteria to get a scan and didn't really meet the criteria to say that I had PCOS. So they said that I could go on a pill, I think it was Yasmin. They said that I could do that for my skin, but it wasn't a subsidised pill, it was like $80 or something, so I didn't want to at that time. I just stuck with my skin being the way it was and carried on. Then when I was probably just about to turn 18, around that time my skin started to get a lot better on its own, and so I was feeling much better about that and I assumed it was just hormonal teenage acne. Then when I was like 18 and a half, I went on the pill, the contraceptive pill. The pill I was on was Jeanette 84, I'm pretty sure it's called. It's quite a common one for if you do have troublesome skin. It's meant to help with that as well as being a contraceptive. So I went on that and obviously that did clear up my skin completely and I got regular periods being on the pill as you normally would. So then I guess I never really thought about any of it again until I decided I wanted to go off the pill earlier this year. I'd been thinking about it for a few months and I was originally going to stop taking the pill in June of this year, but I ended up stopping a couple of months early because I had noticed that the pill was really affecting my mood. I was feeling quite down a lot of the time and I couldn't really think of any other reason, and I started to do some research about depression and the pill, and there are a lot of links to it. I don't know how many are studies that 100% confirm it, but there is a lot of links to it, it seems. Kind of the last year before I stopped the pill I was feeling like that, and I was fine before that, so I don't know exactly what it was or if it was the pill, but I can say that after I stopped the pill I've been fine, my mood has been great, so I do feel like there is something there, but obviously you're best to discuss with your doctor if you have something similar. So anyway, I stopped taking the pill in April of this year and I took my last pill on the 20th and then I had my normal bleed the week after that, and then I had nothing for a couple of months, and I have to say that I was expecting that because I did have irregular periods back before I went on the pill. I wish I'd kept some kind of a log or knew what kind of periods I had. That would have been really helpful, but unfortunately I have no idea. I just do remember that they were really irregular. I had really bad period pains. They were often really heavy periods, and it was just kind of all over the place. So I wasn't surprised when after a couple of months I hadn't had a period or anything. It wasn't surprising to me. I did a little bit of research online and stuff, and it's totally normal. So within the first month, I already noticed that I had a decreased appetite, and my skin was really, really nice, like flawless skin, and my mood was so much better. So that was within a month, and already I was seeing really good benefits of being off the pill. Obviously the timeline will be different for everybody, but this is just what happened with me. Also I want to mention that around this time, like 3 weeks after I went off the pill, I got 2 of my wisdom teeth out, and I had a pretty bad experience. I had nerve damage to my tongue, I had dry socket, I had an infection, like there was just a lot going on, and I was on 2 courses of antibiotics. So I don't know if that also impacted my body, and it was, you know, trying to deal with that rather than worrying about getting a period or something. Like, I don't know if that's related, but I guess my body was kind of under a little bit of stress during that time, so I was also not surprised that maybe that had something to do with it, although it could be, you know, nothing to do with it. I don't really know. So exactly 2 months after I stopped taking the pill, I started to break out along the lower half of my face, like along my jawline, but also a little bit higher as well, which obviously indicates that it's hormonal acne. And then my skin texture kind of changed, and it just felt really gross. Like I don't know, it was just like red bumps everywhere, and it just wasn't very nice at all. So it got around to the beginning of July, and I decided to go to the doctors just to find out what was going on. It was almost 3 months, and often you would have a period within 3 months. Not always, but that's kind of like the general rule. If you haven't had a period in 3 months, then you should go to the doctor. So I decided to go and see her and just explain what was going on, that I'd gone off the pill and hadn't had a period, etc. So then, just before I went to the doctors, I felt like I had period pains, or just really, really mild. I didn't really know if it was anything, but it was kind of the first like symptom that I had that maybe I was going to get my period, and I had sore boobs as well. But then by the time I went to the doctor, they'd gone away, so obviously I wasn't getting my period. So I went to the doctors, and she referred me for some blood tests just to check that everything was okay, and also to check my progesterone to see if I had ovulated. So I went and got my blood tests. They came back all normal, everything was fine. They checked like my thyroid, my iron, all the normal things that you check for a general blood test. And it confirmed I hadn't been through menopause, because not gonna lie, was kind of worried that maybe I'd been through early menopause. All these random thoughts go through your head, I guess. So that was good, and everything else was fine, but the progesterone was low, so I hadn't ovulated. So I had to go back. I think I went back 3 times to get more blood tests, and I'm awful with blood tests. I have the smallest veins in the world, I'm pretty sure. But by the end of those 3 weeks, I was kind of figuring out how to make it a little bit easier for me. Took a hot water bottle with me, put that on my arm. Seemed to really, really help, and also drank heaps of water beforehand. So by the end I was kind of like a pro. So that was good. That was actually a good experience, being able to, you know, get a little bit better with blood tests. But anyway, after those 3 weeks there was still nothing. My progesterone was still really low, so that meant that I hadn't ovulated. Then 3.5 months after I stopped taking the pill, I decided to start taking Vitex supplements. I did a lot of research about these, and apparently they could help with getting your cycle more regular, could also help with acne and a bunch of other things. So I started taking those once a day. These are the ones that I was using, the Thompson's 1 a day Vitex 1500. Says may help relieve PMS and regulate the menstrual cycle. So I started taking those 1 a day, and I also stopped drinking coffee. It was around then that my skin also started to get slightly better. It still wasn't great, but it was a lot better than it had been. Like, there was one point where it was just so bad. Probably around the 3-month mark, I want to say. It just like was at its peak. It was really awful. And I don't know why, especially since I have this camera and everything, I didn't take photos of it when it was really bad. I just took a couple of really bad photos on my phone just so I could show my doctor and my mum. But maybe I might have some footage, but I wasn't really filming much because my skin was bad. I just didn't want to film. So I don't know if I'll have anything, but if I do, I'll try and do like a before and after to show you guys how bad it was and how much better it is now. Then I want to say on and off I had what I thought were PMS symptoms, like minor period pains and sore boobs, like just on and off every now and then, which was really annoying to me because I'm like, if I'm going to have these symptoms, can I just have a period please? But nothing. So on the 14th of August I went back to the doctor to discuss my options because the blood test had shown that I wasn't ovulating. So I went to the doctor and she went through my hormone blood tests and said that everything was normal except for my androgen levels, which is the testosterone hormone, and they were high, not over the threshold for having PCOS, but they were on the higher side, like they were 70 and the high level over to PCOS is 80. So they were high but not actually over the amount, but because I also had acne and irregular periods or no periods, that was enough to confirm that I had PCOS. I'm still kind of like unsure about that because with going off the pill and everything, I was kind of like, well, do I actually have PCOS? Because my testosterone level isn't actually over the threshold, and I don't know, I was just kind of like unsure about that. But anyway, so I found out I had PCOS and I was upset about it because they had thought that I'd had it all those years ago, and I think if I'd been 100% diagnosed with it then and they had said you're going to have problems later, like you're going to have irregular periods, and when you go off the pill, you know, it'll probably come back and you'll have all these symptoms again, and it means like trying for a baby might be difficult because you don't know when you are, like where you are in your cycle. So I kind of wish that I'd known all of that. And I was kind of just like waiting for one period, and then in my mind I was like, once I get one period I'll be sweet and I'll just get them regularly. So I think also finding out I had PCOS, I was like, okay, well, even if I do get a period, I'm probably not going to be regular after that. Yeah, I was really upset about it. For like, I let myself be sad for a day, and then I was like, okay, I've got to like move on, I'm going to research about it and find out like natural things that I can do to help, and just, you know, research it more because that really helps me. Because PCOS is a really common thing. It affects 1 in 10 women, which is amazing. But I think the thing about it is that it's so different for everybody and they just don't know much about it at all. Like it's one of the syndromes, I guess, that they just don't know much about, which is crazy since it's so common. So basically then my doctor said that there wasn't much I could do. There was a drug called Metformin, which is actually for people with diabetes, but there has been some links to it helping people with PCOS and helping them regulate their cycle. Otherwise, I would have to kind of wait to go to a fertility specialist if I wanted to conceive, and to do that in the public system in New Zealand you have to wait a year. So I went home and made an appointment to talk to the fertility specialist about what I could do, and they told me that my doctor needed to prescribe me with the Metformin because that can help regulate your cycle, and that's something they would do anyway, but it is something that my doctor could do before the year was up. So I called them back and I got a prescription for Metformin. I did a lot of research about it, obviously, as I do, and I was a little bit worried because there was a lot of things out there saying that the side effects of Metformin are really bad for the first couple of weeks. Like, there were people saying they couldn't leave their house or their bed or whatever because their stomach was so upset. So I was a little bit worried about that, but my doctor had me start it really, really slowly. So obviously discuss with your doctor on what they want to do for you, but this is just what I did. I started on the 3rd of September, and I started with only taking half a 500 milligram pill, which is a quarter of the full dose. So I started doing that, and for I think it was 4 days I didn't have any side effects whatsoever. I was totally fine. I took it with a meal at night and I felt normal. So I then, after 4 days I think it was, I increased to 2 halves. So I had half at lunchtime just because I don't eat a lot at breakfast, and I was worried, like sometimes I feel sick at breakfast anyway. So I didn't really want to take it in the morning. So I took half at lunch and then half at dinner, and I did that for 4 or 5 days, and once again, totally fine, didn't have any side effects. So I was really happy about that because I'd read such horror stories about it after like the 5 days. So I think it was probably like 8 to 10 days building up to the full dose. So on the 12th of September is when I first took the full dose. So that was 1 in the morning and 1 at night. And then once again had no issues with it. So I was on my full dose of metformin, 0 issues. The only one thing I thought I may have noticed, although it could be a coincidence because I have low blood pressure anyway, is that it made me a little bit dizzy. So when I stood up too quickly, I'd get a head rush more than normal. So that's the only thing I noticed, and honestly it was nothing. So then I didn't really have that many symptoms. My skin was still slowly getting better. And then on the last week of September, so 2 weeks after I'd started taking the full dose of metformin, I felt like I had period pains and sore boobs again. But I'd had that a couple of times already, so I didn't think anything of it. Then I came right the week after. I didn't really have any symptoms that much. Then on the 6th of October, so 3 weeks after taking my full dose, I read the book, The Period Repair Guide, which I mentioned earlier in this video and highly recommend. So I read through that, and I guess it made me like more motivated about everything. From reading that book, I decided to stop taking Vitex. I'd taken it for 2 months. I'd actually just bought a new bottle of it, which is annoying because now I'm not going to use it. But I just read that sometimes it can not help PCOS, like it can actually be worse for PCOS, so I decided just to stop taking it. And she really recommended in that book magnesium and zinc supplements, so I went and bought those and I started taking them on that day as well. And I just thought, you know, I just want to try out things and see what I can do to help my body, because it's not normal to not have a period for almost 6 months. So then the next day, the 7th, which was a Sunday, I started spotting, and I don't really think I've ever had spotting before, so I was overreacting and pretty sure I had like some kind of cyst or something. I don't know why, but in my head I was just like, this is not my period. Like, I didn't even consider that it was my period. I was just like, what is this? So I continued to spot for 3 days, and to me that seemed kind of long, because I felt like if you were going to spot, it would just be for like a day or maybe 2 before your period. So I still didn't really think that it was going to be my period, and it didn't really seem to be changing that much. Like, only the last day of spotting is when it got a little bit more. And then on the 11th of October, Thursday, I got my period, and I was so happy because this is what I've been waiting for like 6 months. So I had really bad period pains. I didn't take any medicine. I'm not a huge like painkiller person. I just don't really like taking them. In the past, the only time I'd ever take them was for period pains, but I don't know, I didn't really want to. So I just used a hot water bottle on my back, and that helped so much. And I read that apparently it's been linked to having the same effects as painkillers somehow. I don't know, but it definitely worked for me, so that was good. It was pretty heavy, but it wasn't as heavy as I thought it was going to be, considering I hadn't had a period for 6 months. Like, I thought a lot would be like built up and it would just be really heavy, but it wasn't too bad. So I only had my period for 3 days as well, which is really unusual for me. Back in the day, I would have probably like a good 5+ days of fairly heavy periods. For me, I thought that was kind of weird, but when I googled it, apparently 3 days is totally normal. And also the most exciting thing about all of this is that I got my period exactly 4 weeks after I started my full dose of metformin. So I think that that is too much of a coincidence to not be because of the metformin. Like, to me, that just seems like it must have been doing something. So yeah, I had my period for 3 days, and then I continued to spot for like 2.5 days. So 3 days of spotting, 3 days of my period, and then 2-ish days of spotting. So I used the app Flow to track my period, and it was really exciting to be able to finally actually add my period dates. Super exciting. And I've been really enjoying this app. So I'm really excited to see going forward when I'm going to get my next period. Like, is it going to be regular? Is it going to be exactly in 4 weeks, or what's going to happen? I'm really hoping that I'm going to be regular from now on, because that would be really exciting, and I'd be able to kind of get to know my cycles and figure out like my symptoms that I have at different times of the month, and just, yeah, actually have my body functioning properly would be amazing. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into how it all works, but with the metformin, it helps, obviously since it's for diabetes normally, it helps with your insulin resistance. The biggest cause related to PCOS is to do with insulin. So if the metformin helps, then I'm assuming that you have some kind of insulin resistance, which honestly doesn't surprise me because I've actually wondered that in the past if I do have some kind of issue there. But I'm really excited to have something that's actually working. I was feeling like I was just never going to get a cycle and never have my period, and I was just so pleased to finally have had at least one, and then that's like a starting point. Like as soon as I got my period, I was like, right, that's cycle day 1, now let's see what happens from here. So I am almost up with my second repeat of metformin. I need to go back to the doctors this week, but at least I can go back now saying I think it's working, and I'll get another prescription for it to carry on. So my next thing is to figure out if I'm ovulating, and according to my app, if I do have a normal 28-day cycle, I'll be ovulating next week, because I guess I don't know for sure. Like I did get a period, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I ovulated 2 weeks before that. However, the 2 weeks before I did get my period, I did have period pains, which could have been ovulation pains. I have absolutely no idea. So that's the next step, is to figure out if I am ovulating. And I don't know if maybe when I go back to the doctor this week, if she will get me to do blood tests the week after I thought I ovulated, and then that'll tell me if I did. Maybe she'll do that. That'll be kind of good. So I guess I'll do an update to this video at some stage. I'm really sorry if this video was super long, just had a lot of information. I think I'll do a separate video on PCOS hormonal acne, because I do want to go into that a little bit more. I have cut out dairy, and I've cut out as much sugar as I can, because obviously that relates to the insulin resistance. When I do my video dedicated to hormonal acne, I'm going to focus a lot on dairy, because that's one thing that I 100% know affects me. I'll leave that for the other video, because otherwise this will just be like 3 hours long. I also want to mention, because I did say earlier in the video that I had cut out coffee. I cut out coffee for probably not even a month, and I added it back in because apparently it can help with PCOS. So I don't know, there's so much conflicting information out there. You really just have to trial and error and see what works for you. But I have been drinking 1 cup of coffee a day. I used to drink 2, so I did cut it back to 1. Like I mentioned, my skin has been getting better, and I don't think it's in any relation to the coffee, so it's not making my skin worse, so I feel like I can continue to drink it. But I don't use milk, I use almond milk. So fingers crossed that the metformin is working for me, and I'll have like a regular cycle from here on. That would be amazing. And then hopefully eventually I'll just be able to have a regular cycle on my own without metformin. I don't know how that works or if it works, but that would be great. I also want to say that ever since I got my period, my skin has cleared up dramatically. Like, it's crazy what hormones can do, so I was really happy about that too. And I'm just looking forward to tracking all these changes and seeing what happens as we go along. So I hope you found this video helpful if you're going through something similar. If you have any information you want to share, then please comment down below. Also, if you have any questions, if I've left out anything, let me know. I can answer them below, or I can include them in a part 2 of this video, which I guess I'll do in like a couple of months maybe, if that's what you wanted to see. If you're going through something similar, I just really encourage you to write down everything. Like, that's what I've been doing for this past 6 months. Like, every day I've included in my app whatever's going on that day, and I've just found that really helpful. I can refer back to what's been going on, and that's really helped me out a lot. Also, if you're going to go and visit the doctor, you'll have all that documented so you can tell them, and that helps them out too, so they can kind of figure out what's going on. So thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, I hope it was helpful, and do feel free to share your experiences down below, because I'm trying to research as much as I can and hear from other people's experiences, because I know everyone's is slightly different. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Even if you're only here to watch this video, maybe some of my other videos will interest you. Like I said, they're mostly makeup related. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time.